Hi everyone, I'm Danielle with Trinity Readings. We're going to do something a little bit different today. This is not a reading. Obviously, if you saw the title, you know what it is. I am just going to kind of go over how to read and understand your birth chart. I do read birth charts for the record. I offer birth chart readings. They are $75. If it's something that you're interested in purchasing, you can check the description box below to get information on how to book one. But I don't do birth charts in the traditional way that most people do them, or in the way that you get the printed off birth charts online. I don't do printed birth charts. I do video recorded birth charts. Because the way that I look at birth charts is that most people kind of look at it as like, this is telling me who I am. This is telling me like how I connect with people, what kind of people I'm going to be able to connect with, and things of that nature. But your birth chart is really like the window to your soul, and it helps you understand every single aspect of yourself. It can help you understand how to navigate your way through life. It helps you understand your karma. Like every single answer you need to know in your life is going to be found in your birth chart. And so I really believe that by being able to understand yourself in the in-depth way of really looking into your birth chart, you can navigate your way through life very easily. Most people kind of look at your birth chart as a way to say, well, this is who I am. This is the type of person that I am. But there's so much more to it. And so I'm going to kind of go over today how to read your birth chart, what the different placements mean. I'm not going to go into the house placements, although I do cover that in the personal birth charts. I don't dive into the conjunctions and the yods and all of that stuff. Not that that's not important, but when you're just getting into learning your birth chart, you don't want to add all of that extra stuff into it from the get-go, because it's just going to be a lot of overwhelming information, right? I was in this astrology class or group on Facebook, and it was so funny to me, because basically what people do is they take a screenshot of the picture of their birth chart and they say, well, what does this mean about me? And you could talk for years about what somebody's birth chart means, right? And so what I'm going to try to do with this is try to give the most basic insight that I can into how to understand your birth chart, and what that means for you and how you can work with it. Your birth chart is not just going to tell you the type of person that you are. It's going to tell you how you handle your emotional world. It's going to tell you the kinds of things that are going to motivate you. It's going to show you the lessons that you're going to have to learn in this lifetime. It's going to show you what your purpose is. It's going to show you how you receive luck, how you handle relationships. It's also going to show you how like the wounds that you'll deal with, and the type of woundedness that you'll deal with in your relationships, right? And something that I want to point out, if you really want to know if you're compatible with somebody, it's not really just a matter of comparing your sun signs or looking at your Venus placement. You really should look into your Chiron placement, your North Node placement, and your Saturn placement, because that's going to show you how you will trigger people, like how people can trigger you in relationships and how you will trigger people in your relationships. It's your North Node is going to show you if you and another person have the same life path and the same purpose, right? Your Saturn placement, comparing your Saturn placements is going to show you if this person is going to be a toxic relationship or if it's actually going to be a relationship that encourages growth, right? So that's what I'm going to try to kind of go into in this. What we're going to do just with this video is go over Sun, Moon, Saturn, you know, all the planet placements. Like I said, I'm not going to go into detail with the house placements, but depending on how well this video does, I might make a separate video for that. All right, so here we go. Okay, so let's get started. I do also want to mention with each and every zodiac sign, all zodiac signs are going to have a high vibration and a low vibration. And so to say or to think or assume that, for example, all Scorpios are manipulative or all Cancers are sensitive, keep in mind that every zodiac sign has a low vibration, right? And so low vibration Scorpios, yes, they tend to be very manipulative. But there's also high vibration Scorpio, which is very loyal, very loving, very dedicated, very passionate, right? And, you know, you will always go through, you know, the low vibration and the high vibration of a zodiac sign. Every single person will, you know, throughout times in their lives. It just depends on, you know, whether they're in a low vibrational place or a high vibrational place. So try not to get into like the basic definition of every zodiac sign. Keep in mind that every zodiac sign, there is a high vibe and a low vibe. There's the good version and there's the not so great version, and you're always going to fluctuate between that. All right, so let's start with the sun sign. So we all kind of know the basics of your sun sign, right? That's the core of who you are. That's what makes you you. That is the sun energy, right? And so think of the sun as everything that is visible, everything that you're aware of. It's the version of you that you're most comfortable with. It's your willpower. It's your confidence. It's your life force. It's, you know, in some aspects, it's your ego. And keep in mind with ego, there is low vibration ego and high vibration ego, right? So ego is not always a bad thing. It's your self-expression. It's your soul. It's the way that you show up in the world. Your sun sign, again, is everything that is seen, right? Everything that people, your personality that people notice, the energy that you give off even. So your sun sign is the core of who you are. Now, something to keep in mind with that, the energy of your sun sign is going to be very dependent on the other placements in your chart. So say, for example, your sun sign is Leo, which is a fire sign, right? Which is that very confident energy, very self-expressive. It's fire, it's active, right? But then all of your other placements in your chart are, say, for example, water placements like Pisces or Cancer or Scorpio, right? If you have a bunch of water placements in your chart, then that water is going to kind of dim that fire energy of your soul. And so sometimes that's why you'll notice that you'll meet somebody who is a Taurus, but they don't really act like a Taurus. And that might be because all of their other placements are fire placements or air placements, right? So you can gauge how a person is by their sun sign, but it's not really going to give you like the definitive of who they are, because that is going to be very dependent on, you know, the other placements in your chart. But you know, as a general rule, your sun sign is your overall spirit. It's your light. It's the energy that you give off. It's the core of who you are. And so, you know, your sun sign placement basically just kind of helps you understand who you are, right? And again, you know, there's going to be a high vibe of that, and there's going to be a low vibe of that. You're going to dip into, you know, up and down in those energies depending on what's going on in your life. Next, you have your moon sign. Now, your moon sign is everything that is hidden. It's everything that people don't see about you. It's everything that you don't tend to see about yourself. It's your emotional world. It's your subconscious. It's not just how you deal with your emotions. The moon sign also represents the mother energy. We learn how to deal with our emotions and process our emotions, and nurture ourselves based on the nurturing that we received from the motherly energy in our lives. And so if you didn't necessarily grow up with a very like overly nurturing type of environment with your mother, you might tend to have like more difficult moon sign placements. Your moon sign is it shows like where you feel safe, like what kind of things that you need to make you feel safe and secure and comfortable. And again, something to keep in mind with that, if the way you grew, like if the environment that you grew up in wasn't necessarily comfortable, your sense of comfort, your emotional sense of comfort might not really be always the best thing, right? It might be something that you struggle with. It's your moon sign is also going to hold the things that make you feel insecure. It's going to show what your instincts are, like your emotional instincts, like what kind of things are going to trigger you emotional. It's going to reflect your emotional habits. For example, sometimes people that have moon placements in Pisces, they tend to be very emotional people, right? Very deep in those emotions. They tend to kind of really live in that emotional world. And sometimes that's not always a good thing, right? And sometimes that's why you'll notice that people with Pisces moon, or even any kind of watery moon, they might struggle with addiction issues more. They might struggle with codependency issues more. And so if you're struggling in relationships or in your emotions, it's really important to work with your moon sign and find what makes you feel emotionally safe and emotionally secure, and make sure that those things are healthy for you, right? This is a placement that you really need to try to focus on doing what you can to stay in the high vibe of that zodiac sign. It's your intuition. It represents your mother energy. And again, everything that is not seen. Okay. Yeah. So your Mercury placement is a very interesting placement. Your Mercury is your communication style. It's your mental state. It's how you process things intellectually. It's where your thoughts tend to go. It is how you learn. This is a really good placement to look into, especially when you're younger or when you're dealing with children, because that's what's going to help you understand how a person learns and processes things. For example, somebody that has a Mercury placement in an earth sign, they're going to learn more in the physical world by doing things in a more grounded and routine way. Somebody that has a Mercury placement in an air sign is going to like be very, thought provoking. They're going to be more interested in reading and learning as much as they can. This is also going to reflect your communication style with other people. How you relate to other people. It also reflects your relationships, how you get along with your siblings. It also reflects like relationships with like your immediate environment, like your neighbors. It's going to represent how you got along with people in your childhood, in your school, like your friendships. It's how you connect to people on a mental level. Again, it's your self-expression. It's why you do the things that you do, right? It's the mental reason why you do the things that you do. So if you're somebody that overthinks a lot, or you feel that you struggle with learning, or you struggle with processing things, or even you feel that you have trouble communicating with people, this is a good placement to look at, because that's going to tell you the easiest way for you to communicate and the easiest way for you to learn. So if you, for example, have Mercury in a water placement, it's going to be easier for you to communicate in a way that is more emotional, right? And so for somebody with like Mercury in Cancer, they might struggle more with trying to communicate with somebody who is more direct, right? Somebody with Mercury in Cancer is going to need to be able to communicate their feelings freely. And so again, somebody with a Mercury in Cancer might not necessarily communicate well with somebody that has Mercury in Gemini, because somebody who has Mercury in Gemini is like very direct and to the point. They're very much mental in their thinking. They're looking at things in a very logical way. And so again, if you're struggling with communicating with people, this is a good placement to look at. Also, if you're wanting to know how to communicate better in your, with your partner or with your friends, it's a good idea to look at their Mercury placement, because that's going to show you how they learn, how they take in information. But it's your ideas, it's where it's what kind of inspires you in a mental way. Okay, so your Venus placement, most people kind of think that this reflects the type of relationship that you're going to have, or the type of person that you're going to be compatible with. And that's true to some extent, but your Venus placement, represents your sense of values, right? It represents what is important to you. It represents how you deal in partnerships and how you deal with relationships. It represents how well you work with other people. It also represents your relationship to money and finances. It represents how you deal with the things that you're attracted to, the things that feel good. It represents how you deal with pleasure and enjoyment in your life. It's going to represent the things that you're attracted to. It's going to represent the things that you find beautiful. And something that I learned, this is very important, you don't necessarily want to focus too much on what another person's Venus placement is in terms of a relationship, although that is important. But it's more important to look at your Venus placement. So me, for example, my Venus is in Virgo. And so what I value in relationships is consistency. I am somebody who pays attention to details. I value details in relationship. I value taking my time in relationships. Virgos value virtuous things, right? They value morality, right? And so for me to feel good in my relationships with others, that's the kind of things that I need. And that's the things that I need to feel comfortable in. And so like, say for example, you have Venus in Pisces. That means that you need to have spiritual connections to people, that you need to have deep emotional connections to people, that you need to kind of have more dreamy connections. And so somebody who has Venus in Pisces is not going to do well trying to connect with somebody who has Venus in Aries, not because the person with Venus in Aries is a selfish person, but because it's going to be difficult for you, for somebody with Venus in Pisces to get those needs met. And so a lot of people will try to adjust and try to fix themselves or try to honor another person's Venus placement, but that's not what is going to give you satisfaction. If you're struggling with money, this is going to be a placement to look at, because again, this represents your values and what's important to you. And if you're not honoring your values, you're not going to be open to receiving, right? And so say, for example, your Venus is in Leo. You value being able to express yourself. You value being able to express your emotions. You value being able to stand out, to take charge, to take the lead. And if you have partnerships that don't encourage that, then you're going to find that not only are you struggling in your relationships and in your partnerships, but you're also going to struggle in receiving money. If you are a Venus Leo person, you're not really going to do very well in a work environment where you can't be a leader or be in charge in some aspect, and that will affect your money inflow. So overall, it represents how you love, how you deal with other people, what you value in your relationships with other people, and what you need to be able to embody in your relationships in order for you to feel grounded and in order for you to grow and evolve and receive abundance. Okay, so your Mars placement. Your Mars placement represents your masculine energy. So that is all about your purpose. That is your energy. It's what drives you. It's what motivates you. It's how you get something and how you make things happen. It is your self-confidence. It represents how you will take action. It represents what is going to encourage you to take action. It represents how you deal with conflict. It represents your strength. It represents your power. And so if you're ever going through a point in your life where you don't feel very motivated or you feel very low energy, it's important to look at your Mars placement and see if you're honoring that placement. So for example, if your Mars is in Taurus, that's going to mean that you're not somebody that is going to make a lot of bold moves, right? Because Taurus is a very grounded energy. Taurus is all about stability. Taurus is all about family. Taurus is all about enjoying the pleasures of life, right? So what is going to motivate somebody who has Mars in Taurus? It's going to be, you're going to be motivated by things that are long lasting. People with Mars and Taurus, they don't change directions very easily, because for them to take action, it's going to have value. It's going to have to be able to provide long-term comfort and long-term pleasure and long-term stability. Mars in Taurus is very motivated by family, by finances, by indulgences of life, right? But on the other side, say somebody has Mars in, let me think of a good one. Mars in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is a very creative type of energy, right? Sagittarius is very free-flowing. They love freedom. They love to travel. They love to experience life. And so what is going to motivate somebody with Mars and Sagittarius is being able to explore, being able to travel. Somebody that has Mars and Sagittarius is not going to do good in confined spaces or codependent kind of relationships, right? Somebody with Mars and Sagittarius needs to have a deeper sense of purpose or something creative or something inspirational in order to motivate them to take action. It also represents your survival mode, right? And so that's something, this is going to help you if you feel stuck in survival mode. Your Mars placement is going to help you get out of survival mode, right? So say, for example, your Mars is in Capricorn. If Mars in Capricorn is stuck in survival mode, they might become extreme workaholics, right? Because Mars in Capricorn is like hard work. Capricorn is going to put in the hard work. They're going to put in the dedication. But Capricorn can have a tendency to get too dependent on one thing or too overly involved in one thing. And so if you have Mars in Capricorn, it's going to be important for you to make sure that you're maintaining balance, but also at the same time that you have something meaningful and valuable and something that you can grow with to work towards, because that's what's going to help you continue to move forward. Okay. So your Jupiter placement represents your growth. It represents your expansion. It represents luck. It represents higher education. So your Mercury placement is kind of like your learning style, like in your younger years, in your school years, right? Your Jupiter placement is how you're going to learn, like in your adult life, like your college years. It's going to represent like just how you learn and understand life. It's how you will grow. It's going to show you what you can do to expand in your life. It's going to show you where you receive abundance, where you receive luck. It's going to also reflect to you your relationship to spirituality and your own spiritual beliefs. It's going to in some aspect represent your purpose, because your Jupiter placement is what's going to reflect what inspires you and what encourages you to move in a different direction in life. And so if you're somebody that feels very unlucky in life, this is a good placement to look at, because by being able to embody the zodiac sign energy that your Jupiter placement is in, that's where you're going to receive luck. So for example, somebody that has Jupiter in Aries, Aries is all about the self, right? They're self-motivated. They take bold action. They take risks. They do what is good for themselves, right? Not in a selfish way, but they take action towards what feels good for them, towards what inspires them. They make bold moves. They act first and worry about it later. And so if you have Jupiter in Aries, honoring yourself and taking bold action and making bold moves is actually going to be something that gives you luck. Also, Aries represents your physical body. And so if you have Jupiter in Aries, taking care of your physical body is going to be important. And when you focus on your physical body, like, being healthy, doing things that are honoring your physical body, you are going to receive growth. You are going to receive expansion. They also say that your Jupiter placement represents your husband placement or your marriage placement. And that is because it is the placement that encourages growth. And so this is going to show to you the type of relationships that will sustain you and grow with you, right? Your Venus placement is going to show where you will find comfort in your relationships. But if you really want to know if a relationship is going to withstand the test of time, compare the Jupiter placements. If your Jupiter is in Capricorn, which is very structured, which is very by the book and very traditional, but your partner's Jupiter placement is Aquarius, which is very free-flowing, very, out of the box, you and that person might struggle in growing in the same direction, because you both are going to have different needs in order for growth. And so this placement is really going to be important when it comes to long-term relationships, and also in what is going to help you and assist you with your growth and abundance and expansion in life. Okay, now Saturn. This is a fun placement, right? Saturn represents karma, and it in some aspects represents, they say it's like your past life karma. It's like the karma that you brought into this life. But what it really means is it's the things in life that you are going to struggle with a little bit more, right? And we all have things that we struggle with, right? Somebody who is very good with money and very good with attracting money might struggle with friendships, right? We all struggle with something, and so your Saturn placement is going to show you what you are going to struggle with the most, because it's also reflecting the lessons that you are needing to learn in this life. And so what you're going to find with your Saturn placement is you are going to be on all sides of that, and that is something that is going to be consistently showing its face to you, especially for the first 30 years of your life. And so it's where you're going to need to take responsibility. It's where you're going to need to take more ownership. It's where you might feel restricted. It's the obligations that you have in this lifetime. It doesn't mean that this is what you are stuck to in this life, but what it means is when you have fully been able to embody and understand those lessons, that's when you will experience the most growth. Saturn restricts, but what Saturn restricts, it will bless you tenfold when you have fully learned those lessons. And 9 times out of 10, you're gonna be, feel restricted in this Saturn placement until at least the age of 29 or 30. And that's when you find your Saturn return. That's when Saturn comes back into the zodiac sign that it was in when you were born. And so that's your opportunity in life to kind of break free. And the reason is when you come into this world, you have a tendency to go by and follow the rules that other people have placed, right? Your family raised you to be a certain way. Society has taught you to be a certain way. You're moving in a direction based on what you think you're supposed to be doing. But usually by the time you hit your 30s, that's when you start going, okay, well, I'm not necessarily happy with this. I would like to have something different, right? And so that's when you get into that place where you start wanting to do things more for you. And that's usually where that Saturn return is, right? So it's definitely a more intimidating placement. But again, this is showing you what lessons you have to learn in this lifetime. So somebody who has Saturn in Leo. Leo is the zodiac sign of your self-expression, right? It is your ego. It's your sense of self. It's your strength. It's your confidence, right? And so somebody who has Saturn in Leo is going to struggle more with that self-confidence. They're going to struggle more with expressing themselves. They might find that when they express themselves in life, when they express themselves authentically, that not everybody is happy with that. They might find that people are always pushing their ego. They might find that their ego gets bruised a lot, right? And what the lesson is to really understand your sense of self, understand your ego, understand your power, understand what's important to you, and really be able to embody fearlessly expressing yourself no matter what the cost. And so people with Saturn and Leo, or wherever your Saturn placement is, you are going to find yourself on all sides of that zodiac sign. Say, for example, you have Saturn in Libra. Libra is all about balance. It's all about fairness. It's all about justice. It's all about partnerships. It's all about relationships. And so what that means is you're going to struggle in relationships. You might find yourself in a lot of situations that don't seem very fair. You might find yourself in a lot of relationships that are codependent, that aren't very balanced, that aren't very fair. And again, that's because you're going to find yourself on all aspects of the Libra scales, right? And it's so if you think of it this way, somebody who has always been a wealthy person is not really going to fully understand what wealth and abundance is, because it's something that's always came very naturally to them and very easily to them. So somebody who has always been wealthy in life, if they're ever put in a period in their life where they're suddenly broke and have no money, they're not going to know what to do with it, right? Because they've never been there. And that's what Saturn is teaching you, right? It's easy to be confident if everybody around you embraces your confidence, but it's not always easy to be confident if you're always met with opposition, right? And again, Saturn is going to put you on all sides of that. And so you understand the totality of it. And when you understand that totality of it and can really embody that energy, that's when Saturn blesses you tenfold. And what that means is, you know, if you've always struggled, if you have Saturn in Libra and you've always struggled with relationships, and you get to that point in your life where you finally, you know, understand the lessons, you understand what that means for you, you understand how to remain yourself in relationships but still keep that balance, then you're going to be blessed tenfold with extremely wonderful and abundant and balanced relationship. Things are going to seem more fair, right? But that Saturn placement, again, it's like you're not going to get out of that until you take ownership of it and really learn the lesson and put in the work. Saturn is Capricorn energy. It's also 10th house, and 10th house is your work. It's your job. And so it means that this is the energy that you're going to have to work the hardest at. It doesn't mean that you've done bad in your past lifetimes. It doesn't mean that you're being punished. It just means that that's the lesson that you came in this lifetime to learn, okay? Now, the rest of the zodiac placements, the Uranus placement, Neptune placement, and Pluto placements, because those, you know, transit like more than every like 30 to 40 years, right? That's going to be more of a collective energy. So it's going to reflect more how you relate to society as a whole. So these are personal placements, but it's also you're going to notice that same energy in people that are the same age in you. It's more of like a collective thing. It's things that you're learning because of the time period that you're growing up in. So the Uranus placement is going to represent like your inner rebel, right? It's what makes you unique. It's what makes you different. It's where you're going to experience the most radical changes in your life. It is where you're going to find the most unpredictable moments in your life. If you're familiar with tarot, Uranus is the Tower card, right? So Saturn is structure, and Uranus is like clearing that structure away. So it's everything in your life that goes against the norm. It's going to represent changes in your life. It's also going to show you how you do think outside of the box. And it's also going to show how you relate to and connect to society as a whole. And so, say, for example, your Uranus placement is in Pisces. Pisces is a very spiritual sign, right? And it's very much about imagination. It's very much creativity. It's very much emotional world. And so having Uranus in Pisces means that in your lifetime, you're going to experience a lot of changes, a lot of different perspectives, a lot of unexpected things in your spiritual world, in your emotional world, in how you love people, even in your own, your dreams and your visions are going to be different than maybe most people, right? It's also going to reflect kind of how you deal with the unexpected, how you deal with unexpected changes, and how those changes benefit you for the better. Now, your Neptune placement is represents kind of like all that is hidden. It represents illusions. It represents fantasy. It represents your intuition. It represents your spiritual connections. It's very Piscean energy. So it's that very spiritual aspect of your life. It's that hidden aspect of your life. So your Neptune placement is going to reflect your dreams, your daydreams, your aspirations, the fantasies that you have, but it's also going to reflect to you the illusions that you might have, like the things that you might struggle in seeing clearly, the things, it's going to represent like in your relationships where you might tend to like put on rose colored glasses, right? And not see things for what they really are. It's going to show your relationship to magic. It's going to show your deep compassion for things. It's going to show how you connect to people on a spiritual level. So say, for example, your Neptune is in Capricorn. So Capricorn is that very structured energy. It's about work. It's about hard work. It's about commitment. It's about what you're supposed to be putting your time and energy into. So Neptune in Capricorn might mean you have a lot of dreams and desires about the work that you want to do in your life, but you might also have a lot of illusions around that. You might also have a lot of fears around that. You might be the type of person that your family wants you to be a doctor, but you want to be a singer, right? Or you want to be a cook, or you want to be a trash man, right? That's going to kind of represent like Neptune and Capricorn, like having dreams and fantasies and desires that maybe go against the norm, right? Neptune is also going to reflect to you how intuitive you are and how to tap into your intuition better. And again, whatever zodiac sign is in each planet, by understanding that zodiac sign in its totality and what that means for you, that's how you're going to work with that zodiac sign the best. Okay. Now, your Pluto placement is your source of power. It is sex. It is death. It is rebirth. It's everything that can take your power, and it's how you use your power. It's a very intense energy. It represents the intense transformations that you will go through. If you deal with a lot of power struggles with other people, look at your Pluto placement. If you have Pluto in Libra, you're going to deal with a lot of power struggles. You're going to have to be careful not to give your power away in relationships with other people. It's everything that is going on under the surface in regard to power. That's why it represents sex. That's why it represents death, because those are very powerful things, right? People use sex as a form of power, right? They use money as a source of power. Whatever can be used in terms of like manipulation to get power, that's going to represent Pluto. That's also going to reflect to you where you're going to experience the biggest shifts and transformations within your life. So if your Pluto is in Libra, you are going to experience the biggest changes in your perception and your views of relationships with other people. So in your 20s, you might feel that having very close, committed, traditional relationships is something that's very important to you. But by the time you're 40, you might decide that you don't want committed relationships anymore. Your view of relationships is going to be totally different than it was when you were younger. So Pluto is going to represent where you're going to go through the most powerful changes in your life, and also how you deal with those changes. It's also going to reflect to you how how you deal with power, how you deal with authority even, and how to hone in and use your power to your advantage. Okay, now your rising sign is who you are aspiring to be. It represents what people notice in you and your first impressions of other people. It represents your physical body. It represents what people notice firsthand from you, and again, what you are trying to be. It's what you are awakening to in this lifetime. It's how you learned to present yourself to the world. It's your rising sign, your ascendant, so that is something that is kind of going to change and evolve with you the more you grow in life. Like, my rising is Capricorn, and so I always kind of pay attention to, whether people take responsibility or not, whether I always notice if people are hard workers or not. I struggle with people who I feel are lazy, which is probably not nice, right? But it's also like, I aspire to be somebody that is going to put in the work, right? I want to be seen as somebody that is a hard worker. I want to be seen as somebody who is responsible. So that's, your rising sign is what you are aspiring to be. It's not necessarily what you want to be, but it's more like the version of yourself that you want other people to see, that you want to become better. It's what you're always trying to work on within yourself. Okay, so now we're going to get to the North and the South node. This is the most important placement in your chart, especially if you're wanting to understand your purpose, or you're finding that you keep getting stuck in the same cycles. So your South node is kind of similar to your Saturn placement. It's who you were. It's who you were in a past life. It's who you have been the first 30 years of your life. It's what your family kind of told you you need to be. It's the family that you came from. It's the energy that you're going to feel the most comfortable in, because it's the energy that you've sat in for half your life and in past lives, right? This is an energy that you have already mastered in this lifetime and in past lifetimes. So this is going to represent the energy that is going to hold you back, right? Because you're comfortable with this energy. You know how to deal with this energy. And so comfort is not always great. It's not always growth, right? So it's your patterns. It's a little bit similar if you combined your moon sign with your Saturn placement. It's a little bit similar to that. It's what's going to make you feel kind of stuck, but it's also what you're going to feel most comfortable in. It's your traditions. It's what you're used to. And this is not a bad energy to be in, but this is your past, right? This is the energy that you already know how to deal with. And so if you want to experience growth and different energy and different cycles in your life, you're going to have to work to get out of this energy. Now, the North and the South node are always going to be complete opposites. So you're going to go 6 placements after or 6 placements before, right? So if your North node is in Aries, your South node is going to be in Libra. If your North node is in Taurus, your South node is going to be in Scorpio, and on and on and on. And it's the complete opposite, right? And so your South node is, say, for example, Taurus. That's the energy that you're most comfortable in. Scorpio is that complete opposite energy, which is the energy that you're most unfamiliar with. but that is your purpose in this life. That is the energy that you're meant to embody. So it's not an easy energy to get into because it's completely outside of your comfort zone. But that is what your purpose is. That is where you're meant to go. That is your North Star. That is your purpose. That is the energy that you're meant to pursue. And so it's not to say that you need to completely dismiss all of your South Node energy, but it means that you need to kind of put some of that on the back burner and really try to honor the energy of your North Node. So for example, South Node in Taurus, they're very comfortable with family. They're very comfortable with tradition. They seek comfort. They seek safety. They seek security. They, seek abundance, comfort in that abundance. But Scorpio is almost kind of a reckless energy. They seek passion. They seek purpose. They seek depth. They're not looking in that traditional sense. They're wanting to know what's underneath the surface. Taurus is very family tradition, where Scorpio is known to be like the occult kind of energy, right? They want to know about the non-traditional kind of things like spirit and ghosts and things of that nature. Scorpio is a very passionate person. Scorpio's not necessarily looking for comfort. They're looking for excitement. They're looking for passion. But if your South Node is Taurus, this energy is going to be something that's very foreign to you, but it's also going to be something that you're subconsciously very drawn to. So something to keep in mind, whatever your North Node placement is, and also your Jupiter placement, try to connect with as many people as you possibly can that have that in their sun sign or in a very strong placement. Like it's going to be difficult to connect with somebody who has the same North Node as you, because that means they also have the same South Node as you. So that energy is just as foreign to them as it is to you, right? So, look at somebody's Mars placement, look at somebody's Sun placement, look at somebody's Moon placement, and look to connect with people who share the same Sun, Moon, Rising, Mars, even Venus placements as your North Node placements. Those are going to be the people that help you dive into that energy of your purpose. Now, again, this is the most important placement. Like, find what your North Node is and Google what does it mean to have North Node in this zodiac sign. That's going to tell you how to embody your purpose, how to get out of that, past life energy or South Node energy. Chiron is the next placement that I wanted to talk about, and I don't have a card for that, and that's fine. But Chiron is your wounded healer. So what that represents is and when I say wounded, it doesn't necessarily mean that you had a very bad childhood. It doesn't mean that. But if you think about when you're a child and you come into this world, you just have all this faith in everything. You believe that everything is possible. You have no fear in the world. And there's always something that comes along that kind of like snaps you into reality, right? Your first heartbreak, the first time your mom told you no, the first time you found out Santa Claus wasn't real, right? And so that placement is going to represent all of those times in your early life that you were let down. And when you're let down, you have a wound. And 9 times out of 10, you don't know how to nurture that wound because you're just a child. You don't know how to deal with that. And so we develop all of these patterns in order to protect ourselves from being hurt. But those patterns that we develop are the very patterns that aren't healthy. It's what's going to keep us continuing to get that same kind of hurt and pain over and over and over again. Because anytime you get hurt or you get a wound or you go through some kind of loss, you get that ball of energy, right? That wound becomes a ball of energy. And when that wound or that emotion or that pain is not acknowledged, it becomes like this ball of energy, this ball of fire, this magnet that is going to attract everything to it that is going to trigger that. And it's going to trigger that pain, because the only way to get over pain and get over our wounds is by feeling it. We think that it's by pushing it down, but that's not the case. It's by actually feeling it and understanding what negative patterns we have developed in order to protect ourselves. And so you're gonna, that's gonna show you, if you deal with people always letting you down, people always abandoning you, that's probably going to be reflecting in your Chiron wound, right? And they call it the wounded healer, because once you fully understand that energy and truly take time to nurture that energy and feel that energy and get yourself out of those patterns that you have developed to protect yourself, then that becomes your biggest strength. And that's how you help other people, because you're able to embody the strength. You're able to turn your wounds into your power. So somebody who has Chiron in Aries, that's the wound of self. That is somebody who doesn't feel secure in their body. That's somebody who likely got bullied in childhood because they didn't look the same as everybody else, or they were overweight, or things of that nature, or they just didn't feel good within their body for whatever reason. They don't see value in themselves because something happened to them when they were younger, whether it came from their parents or from, one random person in school, that one time they got let down. It's that wound that is still there, right? So Chiron Aries, like they don't see value in themselves. They feel like they have to prove themselves. They tend to lack boundaries because they don't see enough value in themselves. And so somebody with Chiron and Aries, Aries is masculine energy. Somebody with Chiron and Aries really has to hone in and honor their masculine energy and understand their masculine energy and understand why they don't feel that they're valuable, and feel that feeling and fight through that. And that Chiron is not an easy placement to work through. It's very similar to Saturn. It's something that you're likely going to deal with for at least the first 30 years of your life, if not longer. And you're going to find that every single relationship that you get into, that wound is going to be triggered. And it's not that you're just connecting to a lot of toxic people. It's that wound is magnetizing to you everything that is going to trigger that. And so that is a really important placement for you to work through, especially if you struggle in relationships with other people, especially if you're getting triggered by other people a lot. It's not that person that is intentionally triggering you, and it's not that it's your fault, right? But it's that wound is there, and until you really, really, really feel all of that, the pain, the everything, until you can, transmute that into something better, you're going to keep getting triggered by it until you can turn that into your power. All right. I hope that helps. Like I said, I do offer birth chart readings. I will go through every single placement. I will help you understand what your purpose is, what you're going to struggle with. $75 if you're interested. Information in the description box below. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.